The following program is rated M for a mature audience. It contains coarse language.
We're showing our viewers some pictures right now. Mr. Hasibi, let me interrupt for a moment. These are pictures from state television in Turkey. You see military personnel there now on the scene. They seem to be taking over state television in Turkey. Is that your understanding?
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And if you want a lesson in the power of the media, look no further than this weekend's failed Turkish coup, where the state-run TV station was one of the plotters' first targets, and where a calm TRT announcer, at gunpoint, soon told Turks their government had been overthrown and the Peace Council was in charge.
A presenter read a statement declaring martial law and a countrywide curfew.
But before long, President Erdogan was fighting back, on FaceTime of all things, urging his followers to take to the streets to defend democracy.
They can come with their tanks and cannons and try to show what they can do. There's nothing more powerful than the people. I haven't seen anything more powerful. We can show the tanks who is powerful.
And sure enough, they did, taking on the soldiers and the tanks, and then recapturing that TV studio to demonstrate the coup had failed. But now comes the bloody aftermath.
Arrests hit 6,000 as Turkey cracks down on army and judges after coup bid.
And as the Woodrow Wilson Centre's Henri Barkey told the Financial Times, it's likely to get ugly.
Erdogan will turn very aggressive against any suspected opponents, and now the narrative will be that they were with the coup. It's going to be a new and terrible divide in Turkey.
The crackdown has also hit the media, even though it's already struggling to do its job. According to Reporters Without Borders, Turkey sits near the bottom of the world's press freedom index at 151 out of 180 countries, below both Russia and Zimbabwe. And according to Freedom House, treatment of the media worsened alarmingly in 2015.
The government aggressively used the penal code, criminal defamation legislation, and the country's anti-terrorism law to punish critical reporting. And journalists face growing violence, harassment and intimidation from both state and non-state actors during the year.
At the latest count, according to the Turkish news agency Bianet, there were 34 journalists behind bars. A further 20 are likely to be jailed if they're convicted of terrorism charges they currently face. And that is before any crackdown. So, for those lauding the triumph of democracy this weekend, bear those brave reporters in mind. But now, let's turn to lighter matters closer to home.
A couple has captured the moment they got the shock of their lives at Tamarama. The tourists from Melbourne thought it would be romantic to go for a swim in the rain on Monday, but that changed in a flash.
Yes, it doesn't come much more dramatic than that. Back in February, when storms were hitting Sydney, that video of a woman being nearly struck by lightning went viral on YouTube and soon made news on Seven's Sydney and Melbourne bulletins.
Oh my God, baby, the bloody lightning bolt just missed you. Holy bloody mother of God, Jesus.
The lightning strike appears to have missed the woman by a matter of metres. Thankfully, she wasn't injured.
Channel 9 in Sydney also ran the story, minus the blasphemy. And the Daily Telegraph had also got onto it and contacted the man who shot the video, one Stelios Longinidis, who told the paper,
"It was the most terrifying thing I have ever seen in my life."
Here at Media Watch, we also saw the video and we reckoned it was an obvious fake. So, we emailed Frank DeMeo, whom the telly had credited for the footage, to say,
The main thing we'd like to ask is the video, i.e. the lightning strike and/or the audio, real?
But despite promises from Frank that his good mate Stelios would be in touch, we never got an answer. So we missed our scoop. And last week, the online news site Mumbrella grabbed it instead.
Today, a small independent Australian production company, The Woolshed, has come forward and admitted it is behind 8 of the biggest viral hoaxes, which between them have gone viral in over 180 countries and had been viewed a total of 205 million times.
Yes, the lightning bolt was not the only hoax to suck people in. There was also the Sydney Harbour swimmer, stalked by a great white shark. And the lion hunters who got more than they bargained for. Few of them fooled all the media all the time, but not for lack of trying, because some of the journalists who did ask were assured the videos were real.
A Victorian production company that created a series of fake viral videos has admitted it lied to journalists and misled the public.
And good old Stelios was a fake as well.
Woolshed's creative director Richard Hughes has admitted to 9.com.au that he was Stelios Longanides.
So, were the media too credulous? Well, you'd have to say yes. And looking at Stelios' reaction to the lightning strike again, maybe we should have gone with our gut.
Oh my God, baby, the bloody lightning bolt just missed you. Holy bloody mother of God, Jesus fucking my God, baby, come back, a lightning bolt nearly hit ya. Oh my God, baby, you alright?
But now to the Great Barrier Reef, where the worst ever outbreak of mass coral bleaching has killed a quarter of the coral on one of the world's natural wonders. Last month, some 2,500 of the world's coral reef experts met in Hawaii and agreed to send a letter to Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull, warning him that
coral reefs are threatened with complete collapse under rapid climate change,
and urging the Australian government to
stop endorsing the export of coal, and specifically to stop or revoke the approval of new mines, including those in Queensland.
That letter was widely reported by the Australian media, including The Guardian, The Daily Mail, SBS, Nine News and BuzzFeed, while overseas, the LA Times, the Jakarta Post, Canada's CBC and Mashable also thought it a big enough story. But, surprise, surprise, one place you couldn't read it was in The Australian, whose environment editor Graham Lloyd has written several recent stories suggesting coral bleaching ain't as bad as many have claimed.
Great Barrier Reef spared worst of coral bleaching wipeout.
Great Barrier Reef, scientists exaggerated coral bleaching.
Great Barrier Reef management, top class, says UN chief.
Graham Lloyd's latest article on the subject, which appeared just as the Hawaii symposium ended, was headlined
Great Barrier Battleground,
with a subtitle to explain that
the bleaching of parts of the reef is dividing the scientific world.
But was this actually right? Those coral reef experts meeting in Hawaii say no. Indeed, Professor Ruth Gates, president of the International Society for Reef Studies, which co-organised the symposium, told mediawatch
almost every single member of the conference of 2,500 people stood up saying that they felt that bleaching and climate change pose a significant threat to the existence of coral reefs. There's really no discussion about whether or not it's serious. It is very serious. There is no debate about it.
Graham Lloyd found a debate nevertheless, thanks firstly to Professor Peter Ridd of James Cook University, whose views Lloyd has written about before. Ridd told Lloyd that reef science can't be trusted because it's only peer-reviewed, which is a bizarre claim, and one that one of Australia's leading coral reef scientists, Professor Irv Herg-Goldberg, told mediawatch was
just ridiculous.
Adding that peer review is
the same process we use when we're studying aeronautics, which produces planes that we travel on.
Lloyd's report then rehashed a couple of his other recent themes, that fears about the health of the barrier reef have been exaggerated, and that coral is resilient and can recover from bleaching, which, one of his experts assured us, is just
part of a natural selection process from which better adapted populations can emerge.
One of the two people telling Lloyd that the barrier reef will repair itself is an American biologist called Jim Steele. So, is he regarded as an expert on coral? Answer no. Is he known to be an expert on oceans? No again. So is he a famous climate scientist? No, he is not. Indeed, when we asked Professor Gates about him, she told us,
I don't know who this person is, and if they were anyone serious in the field, I should know them.
A little bit of digging reveals that Jim Steele is ex-director of the Sierra Nevada Field Campus of San Francisco State University, where, according to his biography,
he has taught the world of plants, nature study, natural sciences for teachers, bird banding, and bird identification by song classes.
His bio also tells us
Jim taught at Everett Middle School and Wallenberg High School as a science teacher.
But possibly of more interest to the Australian than those modest qualifications is the fact that Steele is known to be a climate skeptic and has self-published a book on the subject. But how and why does someone like him get to be quoted as an authority on coral and the Great Barrier Reef? We put that to the Australian's Graham Lloyd, and he pointed us to What's Up With That, the world's most popular climate skeptic website, where Steele recently published an essay on coral bleaching, in which, according to Lloyd,
he analyses and synthesises peer-reviewed coral literature, some of which suggests sustained bleaching during the early 20th century.
But wasn't Jim Steele just a fringe player in the coral debate, we asked Lloyd, to which he replied,
the papers presented by Steele are not fringe.
Adding,
his birdwatching expertise is irrelevant.
Now, those who are familiar with Graham Lloyd's work will know it's not the first time mediawatch has ripped into some of his climate science reporting, be it about the chances of a new mini ice age, the role of aerosols in global warming, or the health dangers posed by wind farms. We've often criticised him for giving too much weight to fringe science and dissenting views. And according to Professor Irv Herg-Goldberg, Lloyd's recent work on the Barrier Reef also fits this pattern.
What he's doing is taking a sniff of there being something different to the scientific perspective and promoting it as a widely held belief. It's scandalous. To have someone in such a position of power in the Murdoch press saying these sorts of things is really shocking.
Looking at Lloyd's latest coral bleaching report from her base in Hawaii, the president of the International Society of Reef Studies, Professor Ruth Gates, reaches a similar conclusion, telling MediaWatch,
it feels politicised for me, and it's not balanced, and it's worrying. It feels disingenuous at some level to be putting these views forward which aren't representative of the science.
So we asked Lloyd if he believed his reporting should reflect the views of mainstream science. And he told us bluntly,
it clearly does.
Well, I guess that's a matter of opinion. And it must be said that in his latest report, Lloyd does put forward the mainstream view as well. But he doesn't tell readers, for example, that Jim Steele's real expertise is not in coral, but in birds. And finally tonight, while we're in Queensland, let's look at another of the state's natural wonders.
Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party has been caught copying slabs of text from the internet for some of its policies. The ABC has found chunks of her party's policies on halal certification, sustainable development and medicinal cannabis have been copied off Wikipedia.
Last Tuesday, ABC News 24 claimed it had caught Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party pinching its policies off the net. The night before, the same story had run online, with the ABC's young political reporter Dan Conifer highlighting 3 examples of policies Hanson had copied word for word.
Halal policy lifted from right-wing anti-Islam groups, position on Agenda 21 lifted from 5-year-old pamphlet, medicinal cannabis plans similar to Wikipedia page.
But was this really the ABC's scoop? Because 9 hours before Dan Conifer's report, this story was posted on the Junkie website by Osman Faruqi. And as you can see, it made remarkably similar claims.
Exclusive. Pauline Hanson's One Nation has allegedly plagiarised a bunch of their policies.
Junkie's report highlighted the same 3 Hanson policies later chosen by the ABC. Halal certification, Agenda 21 and medicinal cannabis. And it dealt with them in almost exactly the same order. What's more, the extracts used in both reports were also almost exactly the same, as you can see with these 2 on halal food. So, what an amazing coincidence! Except that Junkie's Osman Faruqi did not believe it was, and tweeted his displeasure an hour and a half after the ABC's story went up.
People say new media is all about journalism, but the ABC has ripped off my Hanson article. No attribution.
An hour later, he followed up with this.
What a joke. You guys have a multi-billion-dollar budget. Don't flog the research and pass it off as your own without even a link.
The next day, in response to Faruqi's complaints, it seems, a link to the Junkie article was added to the ABC online story with an admission that Junkie had reported it first. But Faruqi was still not happy.
ABC has now updated its story to reflect the fact that it's entirely based on a Junkie.com article. Shouldn't have taken a day.
So, how much did Dan Conifer borrow? Perhaps not quite as much as Pauline Hanson, but as we've seen, the policies, the order and the extracts were the same, and some of the links between the extracts were uncannily similar.
Another section of One Nation's halal certification policy appears to have been copied from the website of the Q Society, an anti-Islam organisation that attracted controversy when it invited far-right Dutch politician Geert Wilders to Australia
in 2012.
So, what does the ABC have to say about this? Well, after some consideration, the ABC's news director Gavin Morris told MediaWatch,
ABC News acknowledges it should have credited the initial Junkie report and did so once it was apparent it had not.
And in defence of his reporter, he added,
Dan Conifer did exactly as he was assigned, to verify allegations made by another media outlet and to write an article based on his research. His journalism in the article cannot be faulted.
Well, we're glad that's sorted. But we can't help noting the irony that parroting other people's work without attribution was what the ABC's Hansen story was all about. And you can read more about tonight's stories on our Facebook page or our website, where you can get a transcript and download the programme, and read full statements from the ABC and the Australian's Graham Lloyd. You can also catch up with us on iView and contact me or MediaWatch on Twitter. But for now, until next week, that's it from us. Goodbye.